Alright YouTube, so we are back of course to talk about some Final Fantasy VII, and we're finally here with an Ever Crisis related video because we seem to have a potential update for this game. Goddamn, how long's it been? So what we have here is a potential release window for this game. Now we know it's supposed to come out sometime 2022, but according to the information that we have currently, it seems like the latest that it should be coming out is September 2022. And what that's based off of is a financial report by CyberAgent. CyberAgent is, I believe, the parent company of Applibot. They're the company that owns Applibot. Applibot is the company that's making Ever Crisis. So within this financial report, they have a section where they have upcoming games that they expect to come out in 2022. Again, with Ever Crisis, that part's not a surprise. The thing is, however, CyberAgent's fiscal year ends September 2022. Now, before we continue, something I'm not 100% on that maybe you guys in the comment section can clarify for me. Now, we've covered a lot of financial reports over the past couple years when it comes to Square Enix. When it comes to a financial report, when they talk about years, does it specifically have to mean their fiscal year, or can it mean just the entire year? Because when they say that they expect it to be out in 2022, do they mean their fiscal year 2022, or do they mean just the entire year of 2022? That's something I'm not 100% on. I would think it means their fiscal year since it is a financial report, but again, I'm not 100% on that. So I actually had to come back to this part of the video and edit out a good chunk of it because I kind of talked about whether or not it was or wasn't fiscal year 2022 or just the whole year 2022. But it turns out that the president of CyberAgent actually specified that the game is to be scheduled to release within fiscal year 2022. So that does actually clarify that it should be releasing by September. But also let me further clarify that the game does not have to come out by September. Like, they could obviously delay the game. That's just when it's expected to be releasing. And since their fiscal year ends in September, like if they're already having a successful fiscal year 2022, they could obviously delay the game to October, just to the next month, to get the game into the next fiscal year, just to ensure that fiscal year 2023 is going to be successful for them. But putting that bullshit aside, let's just assume that everything goes as planned, as scheduled. This game releases by September. That's great. That means this game will be in our hands within the next couple months. There's only like 4 months till September, right? So hopefully we get some sort of like a reveal or a trailer or something at Summerfest, hopefully alongside a Final Fantasy 16 trailer as well, with some sort of release date. And hopefully with the next like reveal that we get for this game, they kind of clarify some more details about the game, because some stuff I'm kind of curious about, like the gameplay, like traversing the world, because we do see Cloud kind of run around at one point during the bombing mission, and it seems like he's controlled by a player, because Cloud's not running like a straight line right here. But how much freedom is there actually going to be, like when we're traversing from like sector to sector? Do we get to just run around as much as we want to and grind on enemies as much as we want to? But also when we get outside of Midgar, for example, and we're supposed to go to Calm, do we actually get to walk on the world map? Is that going to be a thing? Or is it going to be once we finish the Midgar segment of Ever Crisis and we get the next like episode or chapter, we're already in Calm with a Calm flashback? Like, is that what's going to be? Do we get to actually explore the world? Essentially, are we playing the original FF7 on these games like, for free with Ever Crisis? Since the game's broken up into chapters, I'm kind of wondering how much freedom there's going to be. So an example I can give is like when we get to the Wall Market segment, can I just turn around, walk out of Wall Market, and walk all the way back to Aerith's house, all the way back to Sector 5, or am I forced to just like stay in Wall Market and play the story there or something? I'm also kind of curious how long chapters are going to be in terms of like the actual playtime and the story that you get to experience with each release, because we're told that the FF7 story should be about 10 chapters, and we should be escaping Midgard by the 3rd chapter, and if we kind of use the original game as kind of a baseline, it takes roughly about 7 hours to do the Midgard segment, probably quicker for us veteran players out there that know what we're doing, but that still is roughly about maybe 2 hours or so per chapter, which isn't too bad. And just doing the quick maths on that when it comes to the whole FF7 story within Ever Crisis, potentially 10 chapters, that could be upwards of about 20 plus hours or so of content, just from the story stuff alone, not to mention the side content that you can do, and then all the other compilation stuff that they'll eventually add to the game, and it's all technically free. Hopefully the microtransaction and gacha stuff isn't too bad. Hopefully you can clear the game and a lot of the dungeon type shit if you just grind a little bit, maybe even a lot, and you don't have to like put money into the game just to beat certain things. Like that's, no, not a fan. Something else I sort of want to discuss is, we've talked about in the past how it's going to be interesting when we get a little further into the story with Ever Crisis, because we're seeing them use assets from Remake, right? The character models within Battle look exactly like they do in Remake. So eventually we're going to get to a point where we're seeing characters within Ever Crisis before we're seeing them in Remake, which should be kind of spoiling what those characters are going to look like within Remake. The obvious examples here being Sid and Vincent, the only two main party members when it comes to Remake that we've yet to see. People have been highly anticipating these characters. And at a certain point, once we get further into the Ever Crisis story, we've yet to get any sort of information or reveal or trailer for Remake Part 2. We're eventually going to see what these characters look like in battle, which is what they should look like when it comes to Remake. Also, just bosses in general. Any sort of bosses that might be in Remake Part 2 that we're going to come across to our Ever Crisis, because the Scorpion Sentinel within Ever Crisis looks exactly like it does within Remake, so we're going to get to see what bosses are going to look like when it comes to Part 2 and beyond and stuff. And what I wanted to clarify is that I've seen people talking about this, information, this September potential release date thing on Reddit, and people were talking about what's going to come out first when it comes to Ever Crisis. it's going to be the Final Fantasy VII story. That's how you put asses in seats. It's how you get people to download and play your game. They're not, because people were kind of going back and forth talking about whether or not they're going to do like Before Crisis or Crisis Core, or maybe a couple of chapters. Maybe we finish the Midgar segment and then they do like Before Crisis or something like that. No, they're going to do the entire Final Fantasy VII story. Like, there's definitely starting with this first. This is the iconic game. The other games have their fans. We're all looking forward to playing those games too. But we're 100% playing the FF7 story first. People are also thinking that maybe they're going to do shit chronologically, but if they're going to do that, then they'd have to start with the First Soldier stuff, because we know there's going to be a brand new chapter that involves First Soldier that's going to be like 30 years in the past. That would technically be the first thing in the timeline. And there's no way they're launching Ever Crisis with a First Soldier chapter. It's just not going to happen. They're going to do FF7 first. That's all you see in the goddamn trailer we got. Plus, if they were to do shit chronologically, it would kind of ruin the FF7 story for people that are maybe experiencing that story for the first time when it comes to Ever Crisis, because if they were to drop Crisis Core before then, you would know that Zack dies. You would know that where Cloud got the Buster Sword. You know the whole entire thing. So the big twist that happens in the FF7 story wouldn't be much of a big twist. And what are they going to do after they finish the Final Fantasy VII story with Ever Crisis? That's kind of hard to say, because they can maybe go in release order, but also the compilation released in a pretty weird order, because Before Crisis came out first, but that's actually takes place before Crisis Core, but then Advent Children came out, then Dirge of Cerberus, but then Crisis Core came out after Dirge of Cerberus, so it's like a super weird order, so I don't know how they're going to do it exactly. All I know is Final Fantasy VII is coming first. My dudes, that is going to be pretty much the video. It's a little bit lengthier than it needed to be, but I just want to talk about Ever Crisis. We haven't really got to discuss this game in a while, and I have some questions, and just want to talk about some of the shit I've seen within the community over the last day or so. I'm looking forward to this, dude. Hopefully it comes out before September. September seems to be like the latest that it should come out. Hopefully we get some sort of reveal at Summerfest, and it's like releasing next month or something, right? Like maybe we get a reveal in like June. It releases July, hopefully. That'd be kind of cool. What I'm most excited about is we're going to have, like, quote-unquote new FF7 stuff for the next couple of years, because it's going to take them a long time to finish the compilation, man, because just the FF7 story alone is, again, going to be 10 chapters, and there's a new chapter per month, so it's going to take, like, 10 months just to finish FF7, and then they got to move on to the rest of the compilation, so it's going to take quite a while to do the whole thing, so for the next probably, like, 2 to 3 years, man, just new FF7 stuff every month. That's pretty exciting. Well, as exciting as a gacha mobile game can be. Either way, that's going to be the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, give a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys aren't interested in more Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis content. Turn on notifications. Follow me on Twitter, @YT. I'm in the Discord. Links for the in the description. And the outro. Later, guys.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore, I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. So insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame. We blow that like Coltrane. We in here like Low Gain or leave it like